WWE 2024 review. I'm Will, that's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. As always, let's cheers, talk about this year of wrestling.
Yeah, the 2024 review. So as you guys have hopefully been watching, we've had different categories all scattered throughout this time. And now you mix them all together, you put them in a pot, and what do you get?
You know, it doesn't really matter what our verdict is. Like, obviously, stick around. It means something. But, like, what a year of wrestling.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what a freaking year of wrestling overall. All companies really had a pretty good year. WWE specifically, obviously, for this. What a year. I mean, all I can say, what a year.
Yeah, and they've got the numbers to prove it. And, you know, even though we have some gripes here or there, you look at it at the end of the day and you're just like, God, they continue to grow. They continue to keep getting stronger. And it's just really impressive, especially the number of, like, sellouts they had this year. I thought was kind of shocking, like in the sense of, like, wow, that's staggering.
Yeah, the sellouts itself tells you. You know, that's normally how you can kind of measure how WWE's doing. You know, are they selling out buildings all the time? Oh, they are? Okay, well, it's kind of hot then.
Mm-hmm.
We broke this down into, like, three main categories, trying to keep it sort of, you know, to the point. We got storylines, weekly television, and PLEs. I think we should go. What do you want to start with? Storylines, weekly television?
You go first. Whatever you want to do.
We'll go ahead and we're going to start with storylines because those will probably bleed into the weekly television. So, storyline-wise, what did the year start with? Started with the end of the Cody Rhodes story. The story was finished. It happened. WrestleMania 40. We didn't know if WWE was ever going to pull the trigger and have Roman drop that thing, especially when The Rock came around and he was supposed to go and take on The Rock at WrestleMania, and then the switch up and all the craziness that happened. Included in that WrestleMania, we also had, like, Sami Zayn and Gunther, which was a pop off. We had Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. Speaking of Seth Rollins, he was a part of the Cody Rhodes, like, you know, side quest of The Rock and Roman versus Seth and Cody Rhodes. So that's been great. And then ever since then, we've got, like, the Priest title reign. You know, we have pages and notes here that we can just go down. I call these the hits. So everything that I just said, and then I would say the Priest title reign. What a reign that was. Surprising as all hell. We had Punk versus Drew. Obviously, you want to go see our favorite feuds of the year. We got a video and podcast for that, so go watch. Roman Cody, obviously. Sammy Gunther, Wyatt Six versus Alpha Academy. We had the King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring tournaments. I felt like those were probably the best that we've gotten in years, culminating in some good stuff at King of the Ring, which was great. Liv versus Rhea, Cody versus Kevin Owens now, and then, of course, like the Bloodline Civil War. Those were just phenomenal hits throughout.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. And, you know, like you said, the beginning of the year, you get the Cody, like, is he going to win the Rumble, you know, at the very, very beginning of the year? Like, was he going to be able to do this back-to-back years? And you're like, well, I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I want that. Obviously, he's been told that he wasn't supposed to, obviously. So that's just another, you know.
The point.
Yeah, it's just like, good Lord. I'll even name one for the hits that you didn't name. It just, I guess it kind of goes with Bloodline, like Civil War, but it's more so just like Jey Uso's personal singles run. You know, like his quest. Is he ever going to win gold? There's the ups and the downs, the King of the Ring. Was he going to win that? Does he find single success? Okay, well, he's not on TV. What is he doing? He's just in the crowd. What is this? What is that? That culminated. Sheamus continued to, through his storylines, were just, I'm just going to keep doing bangers. And you're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
There is a ton of mid-card stories that were a part of the hits that I'm not really going to include until we get into weekly programming, because I feel like the mid-card is more that, right? That's how you make your show good, your weekly television. You have a strong mid-card with strong stories. So yeah, I think that most importantly, I think they hit on 85% of their main stories this year, I would say. We do have some misses though. I do think Wyatt Six was a part of the hits, but Wyatt Six is also part of the misses, because post Wyatt Six Alpha Academy, good Lord, they dropped off there. They missed that one big time. Same with Liv and Rhea. Part of the hits, also part of the misses. Steam, in our opinion, has really dropped off on that one. At the time of this recording, something might have happened big. You know, I'm in Germany, so we're recording this early, getting all this out for you guys. But toward the end of the year, I feel like it's pretty unanimous that has fallen off a little bit. Raw Tag Team Division's bad. Terror Twins, I did not personally like. I thought that was a miss for me. I thought the separation of Judgment Day was absolutely phenomenal, but I think that the way that they booked Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley coming out of the Judgment Day in that Terror Twins format really destroyed one of their top factions in all of wrestling, and I thought that they left Judgment Day in shambles. And then same thing with the Cody Rhodes stuff. Love Cody Rhodes finishing the story, but after that, I would say the rest of his year has been, it would qualify as a miss in terms of us not getting any real big Cody Rhodes storylines until, December and stuff, November, December, when we got the KO stuff added in there. So they have had their misses as well.
Yeah, they've had their misses. And then you kind of look, this kind of goes more into the weekly programming side of things, but especially on SmackDown, I feel like there were a lot more misses, just as a whole, to me at least. I was like, oh, okay, take away some of the stuff and you look at it and you're like, oh, okay. Like some of the stuff, I would say Nia Jax was probably a hit. I would say her revitalization of her career, I would say, is a hit. But also at the same point, it's like, I felt like they could have maybe done more there. You had LA Knight hit once he was the U.S. champion. Beginning of the year, obviously a miss with Logan Paul there.
Oh,
you also had some, that happened this year, unfortunately. We kind of get trapped into Mania past, but that Logan Paul era was god awful.
Yeah, wrestling always does kind of feel like WWE's calendar year kind of feels like WrestleMania to WrestleMania, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of judge it from April to December if you're going to do a podcast like this. So verdict wise for storytelling, I wrote a little conclusion here on my storylines. I gave them an A- overall on storylines. I said some of the best storytelling in wrestling history, in my opinion. Mania 40 by itself was an all-time storytelling event, even if it was very face heavy winning. I think the only real reason that I wouldn't give this an AA plus within this phenomenal year of WWE is because of the dragging out of storylines or never finding their feet in some storylines. I think Liv and Rhea, as we just said, dragged out to a point where I think most people are kind of ready for that torch to be passed to something else. I think Cody was your top guy, and you never really established a plan for him until late in the year. And even when you did establish a little bit of plan throughout the year, it was just sending him back to the Bloodline stuff, which felt like a cop-out after his story with them was supposed to be finished at WrestleMania. So that just feels a little bit weak, but everything is kind of nitpicky here in terms of the storylines. You can always find something you don't like, but the general storyline and storytelling within WWE, especially within this Paul Levesque era, is just long-term storytelling that absolutely pays off, and it's got to be an A- for me.
Yeah, I'm going to go slightly below that. I'm just going to give him a B+. Can't really get up there to that A level or A- level for me. Like you said, some of the things, I think this was kind of the first time it took some getting used to, some adjustment period of, okay, well, once we understand how he books things, understand how WWE is going to be, you understand that it's going to be long feuds and it's going to be long reigns, and that's just something you're going to have to get used to. For me, that took an adjustment period. Like you said, some of the things did drag out a little bit too long. Also, just finding ways to pivot. I feel like sometimes there were some things that maybe they didn't hit right away, like you had talked about. And it's like, okay, well, you can pivot from that, or you don't have to keep doing this. And instead it's like, no, we got to see it through because it's not to this final destination endpoint.
I think that kind of goes hand in hand with which is another reason I really did. I wanted to give them an A. So I gave them the A-, but I do think their lack of risk-taking within their storylines was lacking this year. There were no real risks. It felt like most of the PLEs, which we'll get to later, you felt like you knew the winners a lot of the time. And most of the time, you're right about the winners. They never really felt like within these stories there were big old plot twists that really left us shocked. So that's a little bit of a miss or a takeaway there as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you don't have to do a swerve just for a swerve's sake. I don't want to do that, but you got to have something, something to keep people on their toes. So with that, what do you want to do? Do you want to go weekly programming?
Weekly television. I'm going to get it out of the way. We do a lot of Raw and SmackDown stuff here, so we're going to do more of that in terms of our stuff. I will give NXT the A, just flat out. I want to at least add them to it. I know they're technically still a developmental program, and I hate that we got away from them being a part of the main action brands, especially, I forgot what year that was, 2018 or 19 or something, when they were doing Survivor Series with NXT and NXT TakeOver the main roster. I thought we were really going to integrate them into the main landscape of wrestling. That really hasn't happened, but NXT is just absolutely fantastic on a weekly basis. It's must-see TV if you really want to sink your teeth into WWE. So I have to just flat out give them an A.
Yeah, I gave them, I believe, an A- for mine. echo pretty much everything you said. In terms of, sometimes WWE gets critiqued in terms of wrestling wise. Well, if you want to see really good wrestling week in and week out, you just tune in on to whatever, however you want to tune in, I guess, to NXT. Boom, you're good to go. There's great wrestling. We talk about the women's division down there. The best ever, probably. Just things that they continue to do. They're stars in the making down there, stars that need to be up here.
Yep.
So then you're like, God, when are we going to get this person or that person, or what are we doing? Because sometimes it feels like there's too much talent down there. That's how good NXT is. So we're not going to go super in depth on it all, but I would say AA minus. That's really kind of the only grade you can kind of give NXT.
Yep. Let's do it just by the week then. Raw, Monday Night Raw, Monday Night Rollins. I mean, everybody's
Monday Night Morgan.
Yeah, everybody's got a shtick. Everybody's got a shtick. What a time, or what is it? What is it? Man, what a feeling it is to be alive in Kansas City on a Monday night. Everybody's got their opening to Raw. I'm just gonna go ahead and leave with my grade here. I said I gave it a B+. B+. I think I'll just read my verdict as I have on my paper. I said the best of Raw this year was the best of wrestling, I would say. Punk and Drew was an all-time classic. The Priest title reign was a very welcome surprise that now has him feeling like a solidified top guy in the company. The mid-card of Raw throughout the entire year was stacked, highlighted with guys like Braun Breaker, Sheamus. I mean, you said Sheamus earlier. I mean, that guy was a consistent A whenever you put him in the ring. I mean, it was that good. He does not lie when he says banger after banger. It's that good. Yeah. The mid-card of Raw is stacked, which has led to high match quality for men and women. Factions have died off, though, with the Judgment Day being sort of a joke now. PFC is extremely laughable. That is the most laughable faction, I think, in wrestling history at this point. I mean, what a drop-off.
I don't know about it. I don't know about in history.
Dead on arrival. On arrival with them. Wyatt 6 does feel like a total miss, and the tag division is a garbage fire. A lot of good is spectacular, but the little bad there was this year was very bad. That keeps them out of the A area for me. I went ahead and gave them that B+. We can go more into it after you say yours.
Yeah, I went ahead. I'm a little bit more lenient, I guess. I gave them an A-, so not too far off of your thoughts. Some of the best times, like you said, for wrestling this year was on Raw. We didn't really get that on PLEs or SmackDown at times. It was always Raw. Raw had a little bit of a struggle from the 3 to the 2 hours, which we knew that they were going to have, right? In terms of how do you book people, or how do you get these people on or these people off of the show. Like you said, the Drew Punk stuff, the Howdy debut. I mean, that's one of the greatest, top 2. So just for the debut, I understand after that was kind of a miss, but the debut itself was fantastic. Like you said, the Raw mid-card, the Jey Uso storyline, Jey going out on his own was fantastic. Never thought I would be so behind him, honestly, as like a singles guy, but it was just great. You talked about Priest. The only bad thing to me were those tag titles, and at points, Rhea Ripley just kind of being shoved down everybody's throat. Like, everybody knows how great Rhea Ripley is, but we needed a little bit of a break, I thought, at points this year. You look at the time we're recording this, a few weeks ago, they had one of the best Raws of the year, I would say. Just absolutely fantastic all the way around. And they followed it up the next week, and they gave you one of the most just like, nothing really happened. And so it's like, how can we get that kind of consistently? We're not going to get that top tier every single week, but how do you make those weeks feel a little bit better? I feel like with Raw, those were few and far in between there compared to, say, SmackDown. But Raw was just fantastic. I was excited every single week to tune into Raw, and that's really what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think that it was a tale of like two major. Like, you're right. You either get 3 straight weeks of Raw being phenomenal, and then you'll get like an absolute stinker, which leaves horrible taste in your mouth. For some reason, when Raw's bad, Raw's awful.
And it's usually like that go home show.
Yeah, it's the go home show. It's like right before times and you really want them to push the envelope. They're just like, no, we'll give you Rhea versus Raquel in the main event, and Raquel is gonna miss the entire time. I mean, I just want to make sure, like, it was so good. I gave it the B+. A lot of things kept me out of the A range, but like what people are gonna forget is like Judgment Day sucks now, but man, coming out of WrestleMania, Judgment Day was awesome. The Liv Dom stuff was awesome. But I do think that a lot of the time, your storylines on Raw, while they were good, sometimes they really lost sight of like the belts in a lot of ways. Like the tag team division your tag team champions as of recording right now are Finn and JD, and half the time they don't even come in the ring with their belts on,
and they're probably losing them right after we record this.
They probably lose. Of course they do. But like Liv Morgan, the biggest gripe that people have with her title reign is that like her storylines so far just haven't involved the belt really. Mm-hmm. She really doesn't defend it very much. She had like the short little burst with Zelina there for a bit, but most of even the Rhea stuff is more about just revenge, and Rhea's coming for her blood, and there's Dom there, and the Dom stuff was phenomenal, but like when you back up for a second, you go, wait, this girl is the champion. Mm-hmm. Like, and there's no defenses happening. Like that stuff really gets in the way of it for me.
Yeah. And that's fair. I would say for Raw though, at least for me, it was all about making stars, and Raw did a fantastic job of that. We didn't mention Chad Gable, I don't think, at this point yet. With Alpha Academy at the time with Otis and Tozawa and Maxine and him, and he pivots to American Made, and they're great. He puts on a banger with Dragon Lee on a random Raw. You had Bronson Reed, Braun Strowman was fantastic for the little bit we got. I mean, the best stuff was on Raw in terms of weekly television.
Here's another thing, though. You're 100% right. We could talk, it's a year of weekly television. Like, you can't just name every story. We're going to miss, right? Yeah. The mid-card's phenomenal. We'll leave it at that. But one thing we're not talking about, there is basically non-existent women's mid-card. Like, nothing. Liv and Rhea owned the entire main title area for almost the entire year. It felt like there was a little bit of Becky in there. But, that you get a little bit of Zelina, like I said. You had the Queen of the Ring tournament, which showcased some great people. Lyra Valkyria, phenomenal. And then after that, just complete stoppage on all the push there. And it felt like that it really did at times on Raw feel like there was no women's mid-card. And it hurt me more when they tried to with PFC. And then that was just dead on arrival. And then since then, it feels like everybody got buried.
Yeah, that's definitely a pushback. The only thing that they'll say is like, oh, we got our two top people here. They don't have anything to fight over. Well, now with the new title being introduced, you can say, well, now here's that time. But it would have been nice to at least have that division, have that area, your Kairi Sanes, your Dakota Kai's. I know she was hurt, but even your party people or your Raquel or Natalia. I'm just thinking of people in the match there. Zelina. I could go on and on. It would be nice to have them kind of somewhat already set in stone in terms of like, hey, these people can go because like you get this brand new title, which is going to be fantastic, but you have to like reestablish and reintroduce all of these brand new women basically into the fold. It would have been nice to get something there.
Yeah. And to be noted at the very end of our talking about Raw, they had to pivot to 2 hours for the first time in over a decade. So that was a little bit hard for them. Mm-hmm. You gave it an A-. I gave it a B+.
Oh, and the New Day before we just go on. I feel like we have to.
End of the year, but yeah. Looking forward to that. Mm-hmm. SmackDown, tale of two halves. Tale of two quarters is what I'd say, because it had the greatest start to the year. SmackDown from January to freaking April was just incredible.
A must-see TV.
Must-see TV. Then after that was rough. Before I give my grade, I'll read what I said about my verdict. I said a very, very, very strong start to the year and into the year carries SmackDown's grade. Post-Mania without Roman was a very tough time that left us with Cody with no plan. Bayley as another round of her boring championship run. She just can't find her footing as a champion.
Nope.
And Logan Paul on vacation with the U.S. title. With that said, the Bloodline Civil War has been an absolute treat. LA Knight was a great U.S. champion in the tag division. After starting very slow, has become a strong point on SmackDown. We are leaving this year with Cody's first great feud, and at that, beginning and end of the year have been absolutely wonderful. But I do think that post-Mania up until, I want to say August.
Yeah, I would probably even go a little bit later than that.
It was hard, and I'm going to go ahead and give SmackDown a C+.
Okay, I'm a little bit harsher on them.
Wow, harsher on SmackDown.
Yeah, I gave them just a flat out C, so not by much, but a little bit. Like you said, I just said that all the good stuff happened on Raw. It is hard to for me to think back pre-Mania. in between, the Rumble and Mania, you got the great Roman stuff. You got the great Cody stuff.
Final Boss.
That was all. Yeah, it's just absolutely fantastic. But as we've talked about several times on camera, off camera, to people in Discord, things like that, SmackDown for years did not do a very good job of building up that heel side. So you didn't really have anywhere to go. You had Cody defending against AJ Styles. Well, on paper, sounds like a great idea.
Great matches.
Execution, not great. Logan Paul, not great. I will say there were some shining spots like Carmelo and Andrade. I thought that was fantastic, but also there was kind of no payoff there. They just had the seven matches, classics. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, okay, I would like to see a little bit of a payoff.
Now Carmelo's getting squashed by Braun Strowman.
Yeah, exactly. And Andrade's gonna get destroyed by Jacob Fatu. So you do have the Bloodline stuff that kind of saved it. You did get the women's tag titles on SmackDown more than Raw. I thought that was nice to see, but also at the same time, they put those titles on Jade and Bianca at the time. We all kind of know that Jade and Bianca are just in a class of their own. So that kind of was hard for me at times to suspend the disbelief. It's like, well, I don't know who's going to take these titles off of them.
Yeah.
But to their credit, they did the best that they could. Really a tough time, like you said, post-Mania. I would even say maybe
Bad Blood-ish.
Yeah, maybe September-ish. I mean, there was a long period there where it was before Raw went to 2 hours. Raw was the 3-hour show, and Raw was much easier to watch than the 2-hour SmackDowns for me.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Their mid card was not there for a lot of it. Like it showed itself when LA Knight it felt like was feuding in a circle with like Andrade and Carmelo Hayes and a little bit of Santos Escobar. It felt like they were just running in circles there. And then on top of that, your mid card feels worse when you have Cody as champ, because it feels like, well, none of these guys have any bit of a chance to go up and try to fight for that belt. Like, it's not going to happen. So it feels like your mid card's trapped in a little box and they got to fight each other. And then those stories get redundant and repetitive. And it's like, well, I can't really tune into this right now.
Yeah. And as much as you talked about on Raw with the Raw women, like mid card, how it felt like there was no mid card, SmackDown for me, post Mania, probably to, like I said, September-ish. To me, it was like in the old SmackDown vs. Raw games where you draft a roster and you're like, man, I've got 8 people.
Yeah.
These 8 people are supposed to last me 5 months. How do I do this? And that's what we were getting. And like, I'm not saying that everything there was bad. There was some good spots there, but I was just like, oh God, we're just doing this again and again and again.
I mean, the bright spot was Solo Sikoa found himself. Bloodline 2.0 absolutely found themselves. A phenomenal Bloodline Civil War, but even that was heavily relied on guys from Raw coming back over.
And it took some time for Solo to find his footing as well.
Yeah, it took a lot of time, so that was a rough patch that we just had to kind of go through and watch him grow. Thank God he did, because I absolutely love Solo Sikoa now.
Mm-hmm.
C from you, C+ from me.
Yes.
We move it on.
Yes.
PLE.
This is
your prove it
probably moment. Where I'm most interested.
Your prove it moments is what I call PLEs. I'm just going to read all of what I had to say here. So I had hits. Mania 40 was the biggest ever with the big Cody payoff. Survivor Series War Games saw the end of the Bloodline Civil War, supposedly. Bad Blood returned, and we saw the team up of Roman and Cody, which felt like absolute crazy stuff. We had the Hell in a Cell match of the past 20 years, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. I mean, you could talk about all the PLEs that they were involved with. Absolutely crazy. Clash of the Castle with the shocking return of CM Punk to screw over Drew McIntyre. People forget about that one with the 1-2 counting in the ring. Phenomenal there. King and Queen of the Ring was an absolute hit. I'm a big fan of that one.
You are a big fan of that one.
I'm a big fan of King and Queen of the Ring. I absolutely love that. And then, of course, we started the year in Backlash in France, which introduced us to just what the power of the international crowds can do. I mean, and now they're heavily leaning into that going into WrestleMania season now. So I love that stuff. But we did have misses as well, obviously. I said Survivor Series was good, but we had absolutely zero surprises and absolutely zero risks on any of the winners, which was kind of repetitive throughout the year of PLEs. Zero risk is kind of what the PLEs felt like this year of 2024. No risk. Money in the Bank had some of the greatest matches, including the greatest women's Money in the Bank or just ladder match period, but was absolutely spoiled with Drew McIntyre winning it and cashing in just to further his CM Punk feud. That felt like an absolute disgrace. But yeah, missed opportunity. Lack of risks were the downfall of this year. So I gave it, overall though, a B. I like the PLEs this year. I like the PLEs. If you would have given me 2 more PLEs that took some risks, had some crazy title turn twist here, I would have been like, yeah, this was a stellar year of PLE.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm going to come right out and say my grade. My grade is a B-, so I'm a little bit harsher. To me, it seems like your Rumble and Mania, as they should, carried. I mean, that's what those are supposed to do. You look at all those ones after that, the international crowds, I feel like, definitely helped the PLEs. I feel like if they were not international, if they were just here in the U.S. and you get your normal, your boring U.S. crowd, for lack of yeah, exactly. They made it all more enjoyable, and credit to them. I mean, when a crowd is into something, it makes it better. When they're not, it makes it worse. Obviously, I felt like SummerSlam was good because of like the Liv and Rhea Dom stuff.
Downfall of Judgment Day.
That's exactly how you can phrase it. The women's Money in the Bank was fantastic. Bad Blood, I thought, was great. Like you said, with the Hell in the Cell. I just feel like you said before we got here, a lot of the stuff you could guess beforehand.
Yep.
No risks. I felt like some of the smaller ones, your B PLEs, were just kind of filler.
Yep.
I felt like they were just another episode of Raw or SmackDown, depending on who dominates the card. And then you look at it to where, to me, like, it goes with your no risks. When you don't change titles in any way, shape, or form on anything other than like a big 4, like a SummerSlam, a Mania, a Rumble, or Survivor Series, that's the only time you were really ever getting anything like that.
Yep.
That really takes away, like, why should I watch PLEs? And like I said, it's just like a continuation of weekly programming. I felt like the long feuds, they help, but also they hurt PLEs, because PLEs are supposed to be finales of feuds. And I feel like a lot of the time we just got a story beat, a bullet point into, okay, well, this happened here at this PLE. On Raw, this is what happens. Or SmackDown, here's what's going to happen. And like, we just used it to get from this point down to like this point.
Yeah, I would say the 3 big, moments of PLEs this year, not including WrestleMania. WrestleMania, of course, we got a bunch of title changes, and WrestleMania is what it should be. WrestleMania was great, but like SummerSlam had 2 of them, which was the Dom turns on Rhea, kisses Liv, phenomenal, and then of course Finn Balor screws over Gunther, or screws over Damian Priest. But other than that, we got at Clash at the Castle, we got the Bianca and Jade losing their belts to Unholy Union. And that was about it in terms of like moments that kind of shocked you. And the Judgment Day stuff, as shocking as they were and great, it was like, that was there. That was on a silver platter almost. Like, we knew it was coming. It wasn't like a moment where we all were like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. It was like, they finally did it. That feels good. So really the only time that we ever sat there and were like, whoa, was when Jade and Bianca dropped those belts for a couple months, which felt good. Mm-hmm. But like, we need some more of that in the main picture of stuff. Like, I need some more IC. Like, your mid-card title should be screaming that sort of shenanigans every once in a while. At the very least, if you're gonna want your main titles, your World Heavyweight and your WWE Undisputed, if you want those to be long title reigns, you know what? Fine, I get it, Paul. Get it, Triple H. But the rest of them, let's have some fun every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have it one way or the other. You can't have everything be super long feuds, and you can't have everything be super short feuds, or I guess reigns, however you want to describe it. Like, you're not getting any super short reigns. You're getting all long things. Some variety would be really nice. You talked about CM Punk screwing over Drew McIntyre, where he comes in and he counts 1, 2. Well, that was creative. That was awesome. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
But going into that PLE, everybody's like, well, Punk's going to screw Drew over.
Punk's going to show up, right?
He's going to show up and screw him over. We didn't think in that fashion,
right?
But everybody knew that was going to happen.
That's a good point. It feels like all the shocking moments that we did get, we all saw coming, but they did a good job of how they were done. Mm-hmm. So that's great. That's a positive to WWE. But like, there were nothing. The point is, there was nothing that like came out of left field that none of us saw, except for like The Rock coming out at the end of Bad Blood. and then he just counts to 3, and then we just that's nothing. That was literally just to get our social media clicks from WWE. So, yeah, that's why I went and flat out gave it a B. You gave it a B minus. I would 100% do that. Little positive that I do want to say to end off the PLE stuff. Man, oh man, it feels good that these PLEs are like 5 matches. I absolutely love that we're just getting like 5 matches, and we're not getting much like promo segments or anything during the PLEs. Like it feels like Raw is the soap opera, and then when you get to a PLE, they are strictly wrestling business, and that feels good.
Yeah, and I know people. I know that there's an account out there that actually times for PLEs how much wrestling.
Yeah. It's gotta be high.
The numbers don't usually help what we're saying here.
Really?
But the way that they do PLEs at least makes it seamless. It makes it easy to watch. When they are only 5 matches, Triple H loves his 5-match cards, and people kind of give him crap about it. But like, I would much rather have a 5-match card with important stuff on it every time versus your 8, 9, 10 card matches, because there is a point where wrestling becomes too much and you lose sight of, okay, like the opener or the second match, or hey, this is the opener, this is the main event. Whole bunch of stuff just kind of penciled in the middle. So I like that the short 5-card matches are just quick and they're easy to watch.
Yeah, I completely agree. That leaves us with one thing, our overall verdict.
Overall verdict.
I'll go ahead and do mine first. I kind of actually changed it a little bit. Right here. But because I kind of averaged out my scores and realized that what I had beforehand didn't average out correctly, basically. But I have this big old...
That's a math major.
...conclusion that I wrote up here with my good old pen and paper. I said, my verdict, WWE has rarely been hotter than it is now. Great payoffs to stories like Cody at Mania 40 are earned and incredible. Long-term storytelling is the new standard for weekly programming and has led to breakout stars like Jey Uso, Damian Priest, Dom Mysterio, Solo Sikoa, and so on. NXT is now not only a developmental show, but a premier wrestling promotion that straight up has an A-plus future roster. Feuds like Punk and Drew and the Bloodline Civil War have highlighted a year of top talents putting on top performances. WWE has set themselves up with an A-level mid-card that is ready to burst onto the scene, highlighted by the emergences of Braun Breaker and Ludwig Kaiser and many more. Some stories have been drawn out too long, and PLEs don't always give us the twist in terms that we have come to expect from past years, and the Raw faction/tag team division is seemingly in shambles. Overall, the highs of 2024 were high, while the lows were mostly stuff you can gloss right over. What a year. Cannot wait for 2025. I'm going to go ahead and give this year a B+ for wrestling. For WWE.
I mean, that's pretty dang good. I guess going based off of that, and yours is a B+. Mine was a little bit harsher. I didn't really give a final overall grade, even though I should have. I'm going with just a B for me. It was good. The things that were good were very good, and WWE is continuing to grow, and it's getting better and better, and more people are watching it. There's more eyeballs. The way that you watch it, yeah, we can complain about that, but there's more people with social media all over the place. WWE is just continuing to grow. They're doing a great job. But there were some misses. Some of the stuff I would have liked some pivoting here or there. Not that I disagree with the long feuds or long reigns, but you got to have some sort of variety. Give us a little bit of unpredictability. Things like that. I feel like any wrestling fan that watched this year would say the same thing.
2025 needs to lean heavy into the mid-card talent that they have because they are ready to go. They need to lean a little bit away from longer title reigns. Let's mix it up a little bit. Let's give some people some shots that you wouldn't normally see give shots. Yeah. I want to see guys like Dom Mysterio with belts. I want to see Braun Breaker get the early push that I think that he deserves into the main title scene. I don't want to see Cody Rhodes just beat everybody over and over again. He can stick in the title scene, but let's let him put some guys over. Roman was 4 years of wonderfulness, but that was 4 years and that was long. And I don't want to have to stick to another 4-year, reign from somebody. And he might have even dropped it by the time I say this, but I really cannot complain with the product this year. I mean, it's spectacular. The misses are misses and they should be said, but overall, I mean, If you have anybody that wants to get into wrestling, like the time is now. It's so great.
Yeah, it's so great. And so what you're saying about like we don't need Cody to have the belt for 7 years, you know. You think about it this way, like you could have him drop it to somebody else could come up. LA Knight would have been a perfect guy you could have penciled in for one of those PLE filler feuds, however you want to view that, however you want to say that. Just things like that. Like you said, more people getting opportunities that you don't normally see, whether it is tag title. Like, I mean, Raw tag titles is a perfect example. We thought Tozawa and Otis were going to get those titles, and nothing happened. They were arguably the most over tag team.
We didn't even get an Otis Chad Gable match. How?
That the big miss.
They just forget that. Did someone write over the end of the story on accident? Was it blacked out? Like, how did that not happen?
Probably when Howdy destroyed everything. Howdy probably took it out. That's probably what happened.
Howdy was like, no, I'm in here now.
But yeah, like you said, if you want to get somebody into wrestling, show them this stuff. Show them the highs of this stuff. I don't know if WWE does like a. They usually do like a Raw or SmackDown best moments. If they do like a highlight reel that's like, let's say, an hour and a half long, and it's just, here's this. Remember this moment. Remember this one. Remember, you're not my tribal chief. Things like that. Show them that. Yeah. They will be a fan forever.
Completely agree. Great year for wrestling. Looking forward to 2025. It'll be starting here on Netflix. We're going to get into Rumble season, Mania season. Woo!
It's going to be here real quick.
Woo!
Real quick.
Let's get this bread. Anyway, let us know in the comments what you thought about this year. If you disagree with us, if you agree with us, what your favorite moments were, what you thought everything was, let us know. Can't wait. But follow us on all of our socials at COD WrestlePod, COD WrestlePod. Follow our Twitch for our watch-alongs. Raw, SmackDown, PLEs will be back streaming for Netflix Raw January 6th, so that should be fun. Join our stream. But I'm Will. That's Brandon. We're the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast, and we will see you next time.